Good evening, morning, afternoon. Probably not afternoon, but welcome everyone joining, watching on recording live. Here we have Aaron today. Hi, Aaron.
Hey guys.
And we are going to just have a good talk tonight. Today, we have a privilege to have the SketchUp guy. That's kind of how I introduced you, and hopefully, people kind of know what I we are talking about tonight. And it's a huge privilege to have you on this show tonight, and we would love to just talk about you, really. I think you have covered a lot of what you know and what you like to talk about, but we haven't really asked much questions to you as to who you are and what you do. And I guess we kind of know what you do, but in terms of what your background may be or how you got into this sort of profession, and a lot of people like
Sure.
to listen to you, but also we wanted to ask a few questions, or I had few questions myself, for just in case
Okay.
people do not know who you are. Do you mind just kind of introducing yourself a little bit?
Sure. Be happy to start there. Um, my name is Aaron Dietzen. I am lucky enough to work at Trimble on the SketchUp team, and my official title is Product Content Manager. So let chew on that for just a second, because you know what that means. So what my responsibilities are primarily in creating video content around SketchUp. So that means things like our short form videos that we release on a regular basis, skill builder videos. We do live streaming. All of that kind of falls, and I don't necessarily do all of the content. We do some like more produced videos where it's not necessarily me in it, or Tyson Karchner, who I work with. We'll do the live stream sometimes, but all of that falls kind of under my responsibilities to get that together and put it out. And like Joseph said, I have kind of ended up with the unofficial title of the SketchUp guy. So
Do you like
I
that
take it.
title?
It's good.
Do you go by that at all?
Well, it's actually kind of funny because my coworker and boss, actually, when I started at SketchUp, well, not when I first started. When I first started, I was hired under a woman named Nancy, who was the head of sales at SketchUp, and um, she left like almost immediately after I started. I was like, oh man, I just started my first job in like 20 years, and my hiring manager's quitting. So, but I started working under Chris Dizon, who some people may have met, and he talked about, a big thing for SketchUp when we work at SketchUp and representing SketchUp is the just kind of the feel you give, the attitude, which is kind of fun and enjoyable, playful, still professional, but I kind of want to be a nice person to be around. So he talked about how he would sign his emails rather than sales engineer, which was what our title was when I started. He would sign it the SketchUp guy.
Mm.
So I started putting that in my emails too, and I kind of ended up stealing it from Chris. So
So you took that title from Chris pretty much.
I blatantly took it from him. So that was me. That was
I see. And I understand you had a few sort of different role before joining SketchUp. How did you come across SketchUp? Let's start that way. How did
yeah.
you first hear about SketchUp?
So uh, I worked at for so from the time I was in high school
Okay,
up
we're
until
going back. All
we're
right.
it's one big chunk.
Okay,
So
go ahead.
for
We have a lot of time, so go
it's true,
ahead.
we got time to
We would
talk.
love to hear that.
So from high school up until about 6 years ago, I actually worked at the same company. It was a family company, my dad's company. I got hired there part time when I was in high school to do software testing. So literally, like, open this program and click on everything you can. And if something unexpected happens, write it down on this
Try
pad
to
of
break
paper.
it. Yeah.
That was my first day. Yeah. Um, So I worked there in the family business for years and kind of got I got a lot of opportunities to do different things. Um, I am not one to write code. Mathematics and I not good. The best of buddies. I got a little too much right brain or left brain. I got whichever brain you don't use for programming. I got that one. The one that can't remember which is left and right. That's the one I got. So, um, but I did a lot of the other stuff. So I did just testing and then ended up doing help desk, did a little bit of sales stuff, did a lot of training. Actually, at 18, I started training architectural and component design software. And sometimes I was teaching it to engineers that were like in their 60s. That was a unique dynamic that I had to get through, but that was fun. But and I ended up in product management where I worked on designing software products, how they work, that sort of thing. And one of the things that is part of that is, of course, look at other software. How does other software work? And I was talking about I can't remember. I did a count once, and it was 26, 24 different software products that I went through and kind of looked at UI, looked at how workflows, that kind of thing. Everything from like Adobe products to the big CAD products to like little simple tools that you could just download, free executable to draw a thing or something like that. And of doing all that, of the 20 some programs I ended up kind of teaching myself or getting into, SketchUp was the one that just kind of it stuck with me. So just how easy it was to get started and I'm not trying to sell anything, but for me, the thing that sold me was that it was a tool that did what it did, and that was it. Like there was no, if you want to go in and draw circles all over the ground, go ahead and do that. You want to push pull and make a house, or you want to draw a chair or whatever, you just use the same tools. And that I just loved that. So that company, we did end up creating some extensions, the Build Edge extensions for SketchUp, which we sold. It was how I got to go to Basecamp the first time in 2014. Yeah, actually, it's kind of funny because my first experience with 3D Basecamp was going as a, no, I'm sorry, maybe it was 2012, a vendor, an extension developer, and I had to go up on the main stage and present to everybody in the Boulder Theater.
Oh.
And I thought it was kind of funny that come around 2018, I got to get up on the main stage again and introduce Basecamp. That was pretty cool.
I think I went to 2014 or whenever the Steamboat Spring was.
So that was 16.
Okay.
16 was Steamboat Springs, 14 was Vail, and then back 2012 it was still in Boulder.
I see. Yeah, I did not go to the Vail one. No, I missed out. I just had moved to London at the time, and just Vail wasn't really somewhere I can just easily go from London. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you been to the? Did you get to go to any of the UK base camps then?
I've been to one. One that was in the Ariba building. So Sketchucation hosted it, and I went to one of them, and that's when I first attended. I think that was before Steamboat Spring, so that was my sort of starting point attending the base camp as just a regular user, and then met a couple of people like Chris Cronin and a couple at I actually met Tom Tom at that time. Obviously, I don't think he recognized me at the time. I wasn't really any recognizable figure by any means. I was just kind of quiet Asian dude, just kind of walking around.
Well, I remember first time I met you, Joseph, and that was at 2016.
Steamboat?
Was that in Steamboat? Yeah, because yeah, I remember you walked up and I didn't recognize you, but I recognized the little you had put on your badge, the little sticker with your logo, which is what you had used as the forum, your forum icon.
Right.
And you walked up and introduced yourself, and I was like, oh yeah, I recognize that. And then
Oh
that's
yeah,
how
yeah, yeah. Yeah, there were a couple of SketchUp team people that I was familiar with, and I did speak to a few, and I think I had a little badge, yeah, with my little name card, business card that I had
yeah,
carved
that's right.
out and then put it on there. And I just put it on there just so that I can be recognized because I was trying to be more active on the forum and,
Hmm.
just kind of be more advocate of, trying to figure things out and I was trying to make myself not necessarily known, but just to interact with the community and people. And it's just something that I was kind of passionate about. So yeah, and I think that's where we had met, and then
Hmm.
we had chance to speak a bit more on in New York, I believe, in AIA National.
Okay, yeah, yeah, that's right.
Yep, yep. Um, Yeah. Anyways, so you came across SketchUp, and I feel the very same way. I felt this very same way when I came across SketchUp for the first time in college. Somebody who dropped out of architectural program had introduced me. Hey, here's a software that you should take a look at, and yeah, and I looked at it, and I think there was I don't model that way anymore, but there's something about push pull that's very intuitive to the way you model. I don't think any other 3D modeling softwares, you just put in dimension and the geometry pops up is
Right.
basically how you manipulate and draw shapes in other sort of modeling software. But to SketchUp's strength, I feel like it is you draw. You can see as you draw
Hmm.
the rectangle, and then as you push pull up, you can see how it just sort of molds into the shape. So I think that becomes very intuitive and user friendly in terms of the interface and UX,
Hmm.
that sort of thing. And
Well,
so I
and I think that's parallel too with the orbiting, right? Because you actually, because it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to think of what was life like before all these 3D modeling tools got better user interfaces. Because I remember working with, was it Lightwave or Lightform or I can't remember, a 3D modeling, and it had the quadrants, the front face, the side face, the top face, and then an
right,
isometric view, and
right. You had
you'd model
four
something here, and then
windows.
you jump into
Yeah.
this quadrant and move this side, and oh, it's so painful. It hurts so bad. Um, so the idea that you're working on something and it's like you have it in your hands and you can actually move it around, and then like you're saying, yes, I want to take this surface and I want to pull it up. It was so unique and so different, but it felt so normal to go
Hmm.
in and do it that way.
Right, because you don't, when you're sculpting something, you don't look the different dimensions
Right.
simultaneously and then try to do it from this side and that
Only
side.
model looking straight down. Yeah.
Right, right.
Bad sculpting form.
Well, so what was the very year that you were exposed to SketchUp then?
I was trying to remember that. I think it was version 6.
Okay, okay.
So I think it was just before Google uh,
At
had gotten
last,
a
yeah.
hold of it, because I remember being on their forum, or not their forum, the blog, and reading about them physically moving over to Google. Like, what? Remember this? One of the things is like, what does it look like when somebody buys an entire code base and there's literally a guy with the PC under his arm, handing it to another guy, and they're like, we bought an entire company, and here's what it is.
Right.
Um, and that's so. So I think that was it. I think it was between 6 and 7 that I started using it. Um, and then just kept using it. I mean, it was the one program that I used occasionally at work, but I used it for personal all the time. Like anytime I had to like how something going to work in a room, or how am I, if I want to build something, how's that going to come together? And that was the tool I used. That was just like the thing I went in for.
Hmm.
So
Why don't you
Yeah.
do a
That,
little bit of a show and tell? Because you've got quite a lot of stuff on your background as well. And I know for a fact that you do lots of things on your downtime, aside
yes, I do.
from showing your face on streams and teaching other people about SketchUp. I want to actually kind of learn about the other aspect.
Yeah, that's when I don't I have I have a hard time not doing something. So I'm not hyperactive. Like I can sit still, I can listen, but I just have an issue with like idle hands. Like I don't if the weekend comes around, I got to have some projects to work on. Evening, I like crashing and watching a movie every once in a while, but if I have something I can go do, I feel a lot better and like I think I'm a better person when I get a chance to like go make stuff. So I've kind of always been that way. But yeah, so I spend my evenings and weekends making stuff, and then a lot of times I post it on Instagram or YouTube. But yeah, it's kind of what I do when I don't do SketchUp for work, and a lot of times SketchUp ends up finding its way into the stuff that I do for fun too. So, like I said, that's kind of a habit I formed early on was using SketchUp to create things. So, still
Well,
sticking with it.
I'm gonna leave your Instagram handle if you don't mind, Aaron,
Sure.
making
Yeah,
stuff,
absolutely.
on the chat, and yeah, try and somewhat promote. I don't think you promote that at all, because I understand that's your hobby, right?
Yeah, it's a weird spot for me because,
I can see that.
I've made I've made some friends who are they make a living off of YouTube, and they are influencers. Um, and that's awesome. That's really cool for them. I don't know that I have a desire to do that. Honestly, it's just too much work for me. I like having a job that I could go to and I can work, and I like working for a company personally. But yeah, I just when I do stuff, it's like it's just fun to share, and I know that for me, if I get onto Instagram or watch a YouTube video or sometimes Facebook or something like that, like I get inspired by seeing what other people are doing. So I really feel compelled to share what I create just because it other people do it, and I like it.
Hmm.
So I try to do the same. And yeah, I don't. It's a weird spot where I don't want to try to use my, if you can call it a platform, I guess, at work to say, "Hey, come follow me on my hobby thing." It just
Right,
feels a little
right.
bit kind of slimy.
Yes, it is, and I guess it is a bit difficult there, and when is
Yeah.
it sort of conflict of interest slash because I guess you when you
Yeah.
have larger or some presence for your personal stuff on YouTube as much as you have YouTube stuff for your company, I guess it becomes
Hmm.
a little bit touchy. It's a little bit more clear cut for me, as my day job doesn't involve
Sure.
any of YouTube, so it's much easier for me to just do these things. But for you, I guess it would be kind of difficult. But I
Yeah.
think the sort of public aspect aside, being able to make things, and I've seen some of your work, and I think those are very uh, important, and I think
Mhm.
those are inspirational as well. So, what's the sort of theme there that you do? I want to know more about it.
Well, but I think my problem was for years and years I didn't have a theme. Like I would think about something and like, how could I do that? How could I make that? And then I go work on it. Or I'd see a video or an image of something like, I bet I could do something like that, or be inspired by that, or a certain artist and try to do what they do. And I think for a long time I just kind of did that. And then I don't actually have a copy of it, but several years ago, my cousin and I made a book. So we wanted to do something collaboratively together. So we decided to make a children's book. And what we want to do is, rather than traditional illustration, we wanted to actually create all the images in miniature sets with little miniature characters and take pictures for all the images. Oh, hold up. Hold on a second.
Yay, show and tell.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, yeah, here we go. There's a soft cover copy. Typical creative. It's a mess. Nothing. It looks great right here. What you can't see is the piles of stuff on both sides.
Yeah, it is there for me too.
That's where I live, man. So this was the book we made. It's called Eugene Cobblesworth Picks Up.
Uh-huh.
And that's me, Aaron Dietzen, and my cousin, Travis Ruckert. And that's exactly what we did. Is we wanted to do something, but we didn't want to have to go
How
through and
neat. Wow.
we both drew and painted and that kind of stuff, but we wanted to actually have something where we could spend more time on it. So we had never made miniatures before, but we did this entire books, 24 pages, something like that.
Wow.
All modeled, little things like this big, and all the sets, all of it. So we did that for like a year and a half, 2 years to get that done. And then we got done, and he's an amazing painter, like artist. My cousin Travis is. He went back and said, I really got to focus more on painting. And I just kind of stuck with the making stuff thing and being a maker. So I bounced around and done all sorts of things. I've done a lot of props, and the arrows up on the wall back behind me are from Legend of Zelda. Breath of the
I
Wild.
see. That's what it is. Okay. I did
Yeah.
not recognize that.
You can kind of just see that little silver thing up in the back there. Is a full-size recreation of the hammer that Hulk used in Thor Ragnarok. So it is full size. It is like 5.5 feet tall. So
I'm seeing a lot of Marvel, Avenger related things there, and some Star Wars. I see Dwight. Did I just see Dwight behind you?
Sorry, I got to dodge here.
Yeah, I know.
Dwight's down there. He's next to, you can't actually see him, but behind the mic is Boba Fett. There he is. Boba Fett there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still like toys. I'm in the middle of my mid-40s, and I got to have my toys around me in my office. It's the truth.
Aaron exposes his age here.
I gave a window. I can't give too much more than that. Gotta keep them guessing.
And is that the top one behind your head is the one that showed up on your book?
Yeah, the robot is right there. So he hangs out in the office with me.
Cool.
Yeah, and it's actually here. Let's see if my headphone cable's long enough I can grab him. Yes.
I love these show and tell. It's just so much about personality and just how neat.
So
it's got joints and everything.
Yeah, so this was designed in SketchUp, and actually all these pieces were 3D printed and on just a FDM printer, and then painted to look kind of like wood, and then wrapped in sheets of brass and riveted together. But yeah, this whole thing was designed in SketchUp. All the joints were designed in SketchUp, and it's supposed to look like it's something that a kid built. So
that's awesome.
Got big screws and everything. But yeah, he was all SketchUp, and then some finished work afterwards. And he actually has I'm sure they're long dead now, but his eyes lit up when we did the book. Little batteries in there, but yeah.
What's his name?
Yeah. Robot.
Does he not have a name in the book?
No, he just kind of
He's
referred to as Robot.
I see.
Yeah, so
I see.
Montgomery was the kid, and he calls his robot. So
okay.
Yeah, Montgomery was not right-brained. He was the other one, so didn't have that creative spark.
Indie 3D says Aaron is Adam Savage's lost brother.
Oh man, so talking about watching people and getting inspired, he's the guy who I'm like,
yes,
I love my job. I honestly, I mean, like going back to what you were first asking, Joseph, like I saw an opportunity to interview at SketchUp for something called a sales engineer. I didn't know what a sales engineer was, but I'm like, I'll do it. I'll figure out what it is and I'll do it, because I just really like SketchUp, and like I just thought the company was cool. Everybody who I'd met from there, I'm like I could see as a coworker, and of course just the product. So I interviewed, and uh, the interview went so, but I ended up getting the job, and man, it's I got to the point where now I get to like just get on in front of a camera and find something that's cool about SketchUp and record it and share it with the world. And that's my job. And then I get to get up onto, our live streams on Friday and hang out with our community, which is and I'm not trying to kiss up to anybody, but we just have the best user community. And I mean, you use other
I'm part
software
of
at
it.
work.
I'm part of that
Yeah.
community right
Oh yeah.
there.
But I mean, because you've used other softwares too, and you've gone on to I know you've gone on to other forums, and there's no forums like ours, like where people want to help each other and they want to hang out and like show me your work, and it's just so cool. And the fact that I get to do all that is amazing. So I'm saying that to just emphasize how much I really, really do appreciate and love the job that I have. But if I could have Adam Savage's job,
With all the knickknacks in the
oh
background.
man, I mean, my shop, I have a shop in the garage and it's a mess. But I do have all my stuff. Like I know where my things are. I know where my calipers are and where my scale is, and it's in a pile over here and this. But I look at his thing and I'm just like, oh my gosh. He just has like every tool, like 3 or 4 of them probably, and every product you'd ever want to use or build with, and just the idea of like, yeah, just go to the shop and think of something to make, and that'll be your work for today.
So let me guess. When you work on these little things that you do on the nights and the weekend, do you go on Tested channel and just watch him building stuff?
I used to just watch, yeah, because he do his like 1 day builds.
Mm-hmm.
I used to love watching those because half the video is him going,
Hmm.
no,
Yeah,
no,
this, that.
that should work. Yeah, I like. There's just something about that where my I like that. It's very very pure, and I enjoy watching it. The other thing that I like about him, and I think I've been told this comes across in my stuff too, is it's very easy to consider him an expert and go, oh man, he knows how to build everything. But he gets up there and he goes, I don't know how to do this. I'm gonna try to do this. I'm gonna try, and that's I still like people try to put that term on, SketchUp expert on me, and I'm like, I don't actually design for a living. Like I don't sit there and design houses. You guys do. The people who are watching, you guys are the experts.
Right.
I'm just like a glorified demo monkey or tutor or something
No,
like
you just
that,
sit there and say, what was it? I reject the reality and substitute my own.
That's right. Substitute my own.
And just keep on going. That's
I'll do
what
it.
I see all the time with his stuff. And I don't know, troubleshooting as much as a designer or people who's in sort of building or making stuff, I'm supposedly planning out these process so that everything goes as smooth as possible, but that's never the case. The
No.
linear workflow from the start to finish never happens. It stops, goes, and then doubles back, and then triples back, and then goes, and then there's always that. And as much as we
Hmm.
would like to make it as efficient as possible and go from start to finish and quick and go, it just doesn't happen. That's not how design works. Design
It's
is
not.
troubleshooting half of the time and then just wasting your time supposedly, but it's all that process is what design is. So it
For
is
sure.
what it is.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I really wanted to when we started doing this the live stream, where we started live modeling, which we've been doing for a couple of years now.
Yeah, yep.
I wanted to we kind of played with the format a little bit. We've adjusted stuff along the way, but one of the things I've always wanted to do was kind of come in and not have a solid plan, and I've tried to stick to that. Most of the things I do, I get some drawing, some resources, do a little bit of looking into it, but I don't know exactly how it's going to go down as far as designing in SketchUp until we start. And I think that just works well for me. I didn't want to come in with like a lesson plan, like, okay, we're going to go through these steps, then we're going to go through these steps. And there's a place for that, and that's great. But I really like that. So I thought maybe we could share that, and that would be enjoyable for other people. And it seems to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
every once in a while, it bites me because I have had a handful of live models that I could say were disastrous. But for the most part, it's a lot of fun uh, to see and to get input from the community too, of how do we go about this? How do we put this in? And what should this look like? Uh, rather than, a formal learning environment.
And
So
especially things are a lot harder when you are in front of camera and also being recorded and also broadcasted to multiple people. So
yeah, there's definitely there's a point at which it gets a little easier, I will say. Um, but I think that's like, say, a year and a half in or something like that. There's a while,
I
but
did
eventually,
modeling session with Ted a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, this is supposed to be a lot easier. We set out to ourselves so that we can just do this so quickly, but no, obviously it took double the amount of time as we expected, and it just didn't go as planned, obviously.
I well, and that's so one of the things that I don't want to say, like, I'm not very good. I'm just not very good at talking myself up. If I ever say something like prideful, it's probably a joke about something I'm not good at. But one of the things that I think an ability I've developed over the years is figuring out what 2 hours of modeling is for me. So when, like, what's the level of detail I'm shooting for? And I think over the years I've just got really good at going, okay, I think I can get about this far in 2 hours.
Hmm.
And I've kind of developed that. Like, I was talking to Tyson, and Tyson Karchner is, anybody who doesn't watch, is the other guy who does live models. We go back and forth, and he's done a few of them. So he's been modeling and teaching just as long as I have, longer for SketchUp. He's actually been at SketchUp since before I started.
Is his icon in the form a dinosaur?
No, he's Dr. Horrible, I
Huh.
think.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so he's like in a lab coat, and I think that's his icon. I don't know, actually. I should look.
Go on, it's all
I
right.
think it might be a face me component. I don't know.
I see, I see.
Um, but he's actually the guy who runs SketchUp Campus. So he's kind of the dean of SketchUp Campus. Um, but he was talking about how, like, it's hard to gauge how much he should get done, and he presents in a very different way than I do. He likes a little more rigid, or not rigid, more structured idea of what he's going to present them, than where I tend to wing it a little bit. But it's good. I like watching him because he presents stuff in a way that's totally different from how I would, which is part of the great part of
Fun.
SketchUp, right? Is, I mean, I don't know if you and Ted hit that too, where it's like, I wouldn't have thought to use that tool to make that thing,
Right.
and it's
We
pretty cool.
we modeled one thing, but we both of us did it differently. And for me, it was just
Yeah.
kind of looking at the perspective and just kind of modeling up and then just scaling as I go. Whereas Ted took a very I would say more architectural approach of taking all the elevation plan, photoshopping it so that he can just trace it and then model it up to, and then actually apply those textures on those faces. So I don't know, we got the very similar looking thing, but from different approach, and it was just interesting to see where we
Yeah.
ended up at.
Well, there's Tyson chiming in on the chat right now. Geeks Woodshop there
Oh, I see. Hi.
is that Tyson.
Hi, Tyson.
um yeah, well, I mean, that's what's so much fun, because that sounds like Studio JDK style of modeling, by the way. Ted's
Right.
kind of coming through there. But it's great. It's always fun to work with someone else, because it's one of the neat things about SketchUp. And if you go to Basecamp, you see this a lot, where people, well, first off, they all come up with amazing things, and I look at work all the time that comes out of SketchUp and go, wow, I don't even know I couldn't do that. How do they do that?
Mm-hmm.
And then to get to go to base camp or something and see how they do it and go, I never would have thought that to do that way. And it's so cool to have such a diverse set of users, um, and see how they can work on those things. It's so much
Yeah.
fun. It's a lot of fun.
Staying
That's
inspirational to each other. And I get so
yeah.
inspired whenever I go on those conferences and see other people.
Hmm.
And I really love the vibe, I must say. It's one of my favorite, just one of the top of a conference to go to because it's more than just a conference where just professional gathering. There's a the very unique vibe. I don't know what to call it. Is it a Colorado type of vibe? What is it?
I don't. I mean, it's something that attracted me to SketchUp too, because I had met through base camps and through being an extension developer in Colorado, in Boulder. We actually had a couple meetings with some of the guys at SketchUp, and we got to know them. And yeah, it's. I mean, it's friendly. That's one thing that I'll say is I believed when I was on the outside, I really believed that like when I talked to these SketchUp guys, these guys at SketchUp, they actually seemed to like listen to what I was saying and legitimately be enthusiastic about what I was talking about, and they liked it and they were excited for me that we were creating this extension, that kind of stuff. And I think it is a legitimate thing that runs through our culture is we have awesome customers and we get to work with them and make software for them, and I think that that's a very real thing for us, and it kind of goes through our entire culture. We're not I've worked at other companies, I've worked with other companies, and I've worked with other software companies, and not everybody loves their customers. Like just I don't want to ruin anything for anybody watching, but there's some people out there who don't think the customer's always right, and there's some people out there who just want money. And I've never felt like that was the thing. Like SketchUp employees legitimately get excited when they see how their software is being used,
Hmm.
and it's very cool. And like you said, it's when we get to put together Basecamp and we get to have direct interaction with customers, that's the coolest thing in the world. Like I can't think of anything that would be better or more exciting for somebody who makes something than to bring together thousands of people who like to use that product and just get to talk and hang out. It's awesome. It's so much fun. I agree. I get excited leading up to and being there. It's so much fun.
Yeah, it was. We had Grant at 3D Base Camp. Unfortunately, he did pass away, but I
Yeah.
had I was fortunate enough to attend that base camp, and then I said hi. Here's a funny story. So, for those of you who may have watched my 3D base camp vlog type of recording, um, actually, I walked up to him. I was so nervous. So I was stuttering. So that's first thing. And then second, I walked up to him. I intended to record his answer. So my question was, what was the very first 3D model that you have made? And I actually questioned everyone, like, what was the very first model you made in SketchUp? But he kind of told me that he hasn't used SketchUp, so I had to just kind of divert the question. So, what was the very first 3D object that you made in the modeling software? And his answer was one of his robot that he did a
Mm.
contest with, and I intended to shoot all of those answers, but I forgot to press the record button on the camera. I said thank you, handshake, and then I walked out and I was trying to review the footage, and turns out I never pressed the record button.
Oh no.
So
Oh.
I was talking to Enscape folks. It's like, hey, I just met Grant. No, I don't have the footage. So I just ran back and then just double backed and I'm sorry I did not press record button. Nervous again, and then graciously
Oh,
he reran the
oh
whole
man.
thing, so it was fine. But yeah, it was an experience.
He was a legitimately very nice guy. That was it was very nice to get to talk to him a little bit. He was seemed like a very nice guy. So
And I grew up watching Mythbusters, Adam Savage again. So just seeing him in real person and just seeing what I have admired for very, very long time, it was very nice.
yeah, it was cool. It was very cool.
Mm-hmm.
And he was definitely one who brought inspiration too. I mean,
Yep,
you
yep,
know, everything he
absolutely.
showed,
Well,
very
what
cool.
what was your very first 3D model or SketchUp model that you made?
I was trying to think of the SketchUp model because I did the tutorials when I first, self-taught. So the first thing I think I actually wanted to go in and model for myself after watching the tutorials I could find and that sort of thing, um, was I wanted to model a robot. So I ended up creating something. It kind of looked like I when I remember in my mind's eye, it looks a lot like the Iron Giant, but I wanted it to be kind of brass and made with like a lot of gears. So like I remember like drawing a circle and using the circle segments to make it into a gear shape, and then having gears and actually like using the rotate to fit them so that the same a copy of a gear fit inside of it, and then that would be part of like a joint or something like that. It was really cool. I thought it was. I can't find it. I've tried to go back several times and look for it and see if I can actually find it. It might be on image of it might be up on Sketchucation somewhere from you know
Hmm,
like 8 9 years ago.
interesting.
um but I remember I didn't know SketchUp very well, so anytime something would get segmented, like I had a smooth piece that I would push pull and it would get broken, I would erase it and draw it again and try again because I didn't know how to smooth surfaces at all.
Right.
So I was constantly redrawing pieces, and it probably took me twice as long as it should have, um, because I didn't know the tool well enough. I was just learning it.
So
But
your aha moment was like softening or smoothing surface. For
well,
me,
just
for me, it
just
was
read the
more of
status
a
bar. Yeah.
modeling something and they just stuck together. When I understood the concept of group and components, when I went like, oh, that's what it was.
I think I'm not 100% sure, but that entire model may have been a monolithic piece
Right,
by the
right.
time I was done. And yeah, I would probably cringe to find it today if I ever came
Just the
across it.
raw geometry all just
Oh
kind of
man,
stuck
so
together.
bad.
Yeah.
Everything you shouldn't do is probably I probably nailed them all.
But
Every,
everybody has that experience on their first try. That's
that's what you're
just what
supposed to
it
do.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how you do it.
Yep. Yep. It's all about the groups. That's what,
It is.
yeah, Chet
Oh,
says.
so important.
um, so, do you do a lot of 3D printing then? That's what I'm hearing.
I do. So I've had a 3D printer for many years. I had a MakerBot for quite a while, and got rid of it when I started working at SketchUp, actually, because they had a
A
bunch
lot
of
more.
3D printers that anybody could use. So that was kind of nice. You just go into work and start a print in the morning, and then swing by at the end of the day and see if it finished. Um, but what I've gotten into the last year and a half or so is resin printing. So I have an Elegoo Mars, which is just a nice tiny little printer, but man, the I'm just loving how much what you can print on it is just it's so cool. It's so amazing. Um, and yeah, I'm printing something. every couple days at least, I feel like.
Wow.
And a lot of it comes out of SketchUp.
And a lot of them comes, okay, good. I actually had as a potential topic, I wrote down this question. What is your five choices for sort of extension? Not necessarily your like favorite, but anything that just crosses your mind or something that you lately discovered or just five that just cross your mind immediately.
So I that's awesome. Everybody always asks, what's the best, what's the can't live without extension, and I'm always I feel like it's a boring answer, but selection toys from TomTom
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
is like it's something I use all the time, like constantly, and I don't think about it anymore because I just right click on a selection and then filter it. It's such a basic tool, but man, it is so fundamental to so many of my workflows now. So that's kind of like an absolutely have to have one. One that I want to be better at using, but I don't
Struggle
put the
with.
time and energy into it, is Flowify.
Oh,
Um,
I see. I see.
if you've seen some of the stuff that comes out of that, like I watch some, and I'll watch people with GIFs on the forum where they're like, click, 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 whoop, and I'm
Yep.
like,
Yep.
that's so cool. And then I try it, and like half an hour later, I have this single line that's kind of like swirling off, and like the thing I want to. So Flowify looks cool, and I just have to like block out time and go really learn to use it because some of the stuff that I've seen come out of using it is so cool.
For me,
Um,
it's actually the quad tools, and also the axis tools. Not, is it
mm,
axis tools? Vertex tools from
Vertex
Tom.
tools,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's something that I also always wanted to really get better at because I know it's just capable of so much more. But it's just every time I try, it's just a bit of learning curve is I think what I feel that I need to invest into.
Well, and that would be another one that I put on there is that group of quad face tools, vertex tools, and sub D.
Yep, yep.
Um, and I think it is something that I've done enough so I do get how to use the tools at this point, and I do like that workflow a lot. I use it a lot. I tried to back down and use it less during live models because I'm like, not everybody wants to see how to do organic modeling with $100 worth of extensions,
Right,
but
right.
that's a group of tools that I really have fun modeling. It's
I
kind of a different way of modeling than regular SketchUp.
Yeah, and like I even, whenever I'm trying to think of like the contents for the video, like I was thinking maybe do like a modeling session, but
Mm-hmm.
without any extensions. Like, so basically do a fresh install of SketchUp or just use the web version to do a modeling and see how far I can get it to. But like all of my extensions are actually on shortcuts now. So like it's such a muscle memory and I just do this and like wait, nothing happens. It's just very crippling, I must say.
Oh,
And
it's
it
so
tells you
hard.
how essential extensions are to SketchUp workflow. So it's very
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, and I have to say that like that conversation has come up. I've heard it in real life with people talking to each other, but I've also heard it in the forum, about how native modeling tools. That's real SketchUp modeling, or
Purist point of view.
you should be able to do the. Somebody comes up asks for help with doing something, and then Dave Richards or Box or one of the other sages will hop up and go, "Oh, just download this extension. It's free. It's a one button click to do what you want to do." And the person will ask them, "Well, I want to know how to do it without extensions." And you you kind of get this like the response from them is kind of like, uh
Okay.
okay. I could we could spend, and this is somebody who's just learning SketchUp, of course, and it's just funny to go, you can do it,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
all the steps it takes to actually download, install the extension, then run it is 1/8 of what you actually have to do if you wanted to just use native tools. So yeah, it's funny that people have some strong opinions about what's real and what you
We
should or shouldn't
this
be.
this very conversation came up when Justin was on here, and he's
Oh,
like,
I bet.
just get it, and he really wanted to just put it out there and just use the extension. And also, we were talking about how like the purest of SketchUp community who wants to do everything native tools, and it's like woodworking, but you're trying to do everything with hand drills and chisels to make your furniture. Like you can, but we have something
Yeah.
called drills and power tools that you can use.
You can walk to the store when you go shopping. You can. There's a lot of things you can do,
Hmm,
but
hmm.
we have these things that make it easier, like driving to the store when you go shopping. It's better.
Yes. That's- yeah. Any other extensions that just kind of cross your mind?
So, um, mirror from Keurig
Mm-hmm.
mirror,
Mm-hmm.
super simple. I
I think I
still
use different mirror though.
There's another one I think
From
called
TIG.
Mirror. I think TIG has one just called Mirror.
Yeah, that's what I
Um,
use.
which is probably just, I mean, TIG makes great extensions. I just, for whatever reason, I picked up Keurig because I
It's
think it was
more
on the main page.
recent, I think.
Yeah,
TIGS was a
it was
lot
newer.
older, and I started using so long ago. It's one of those tools that's just within my reach
It's
of muscle
ingrained.
memory. It's just Shift M for me. It just hit that,
There you
and the
go.
mirror pops up. It's just such a. Do you ever use push pull line? There are
Yes.
multiple tools, but Keurig has one, I believe, where you can push
I
pull a line to make a surface.
Yeah, I use push line
A push
from
line, that's right.
Adebio.
Yeah,
I'm probably saying the name
yeah,
wrong.
yeah, push line.
Adebio. Um, and I haven't used Keurig yet. Keurig is interesting because he's only been
Very
putting extensions
recent.
out for like a couple of years, a year, two maybe, and he's just a machine though.
Yep.
It's like
Mm-hmm.
he's chasing Fredo right now, I think. But yeah, good tools. But yeah, I push lines a fun one because it's again like we were saying with almost like with sub D modeling. It's a different way to model, to grab lines and pull them into sheets is it's very different. And
Yeah,
it's pretty cool what you can do with like arcs and like welded lines, and it's a pretty fun tool to play with.
it's become such a vital tool and within my modeling workflow. So like those things, like I tend to just make surfaces that way rather than trying to
Hmm.
modify a rectangle or something like that. Um,
Yeah, that's a great way to do
Something
that.
also brought up the other talk was Select Curve by TomTom is another thing. I don't think many people use this, but
Mm-mm.
it is so useful in a way. So it selects everything from the end of the line to the other end of the line. So when it's a exploded curve, you can easily select all of
Oh,
that with TomTom Select Curve. And I put that as my shortcut as a V. And then,
I'm making a note.
right,
I'm gonna check that out.
yeah, instead of just selecting all the edges that are leading up to the entire, so that was all before we got the weld as a native tool. So I used to just hit V, select all the curves, W for weld, and that's what I used to do. And I still do it until this day. And it makes it all easier when you're trying to manipulate something and you've cut in the middle, that sort of thing.
That's awesome because yeah, it's terrible when your lines break and you're going click click zoom in, click click. Yeah,
Yeah, and you do a lot of sort of organic modeling, so I felt like that might be something useful
yeah.
in your toolbox.
I'll check that out. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. One more, perhaps?
Because I do a lot of 3D printing and just kind of as a habit, I like to have solids. So solid inspector is
Mm,
shortcut key. I just have Shift S for solid inspector, and I use it all the time. Even if I'm not printing something, I will still go through and try to make sure my models are solid pieces. Just as good habit. Try to keep everything solid, and that's kind of an essential one. You can always check the group and see if the properties say it's a solid group or solid
right.
component, but
But you don't know
solid
exactly
inspector,
why it is not the solid,
right?
so that's yeah.
Exactly.
I believe you showed it on either Skill Builder or one of your series recently, but there was a one that kind of helps you unfold geometry so that you can lay it on a
Yeah.
CNC. What was that called?
Faber,
Faber. Is
is
that
that it?
something that you use a lot?
I don't have access to a CNC, unfortunately. I wish
Uh-huh.
I did
Uh-huh.
because I would probably would. But that's made by Eric Schimmelfinney, who is,
Yeah.
just a huge advocate for SketchUp also. And he just makes
Ton of
some really cool stuff.
yeah. Didn't he make the arcade machine at the base camp?
He did.
Yep.
Yeah, that we had at the big SketchUp arcade
Yeah, I
cabinet.
had
That
a
was
good
pretty cool.
conversation with him talking about that machine. It was so cool.
Oh,
I recently came across this a model or task that I needed to do, and basically it was sort of thin fins that are just sort of a composition on top of a board, and it makes up this sort of installation art piece. And it's for the artist that I work for, doing little consultant work on the side. But she needed to lay all of them out for CNC cutting.
mm,
And there wasn't an easy way. I used a couple of rotate tool to make a copy and then just lay all of them out on the flat. But there are a lot of tools to rotate this way,
mm-hmm.
about the z-axis, the blue axis. But there isn't one that just like dominoes the whole thing so that it just lays on the floor. And I had
Yeah,
to just do hundreds of clicks to it's I like repeated labor, but I wish there was a way to just flip about the components axis. Like I feel like it's gotta be out there, but every time I search for this, I have searched for these sort of tool multiple times, but it's just not out there. So anybody
yeah,
listening in, we've got to have that sort of tool.
that would be nice. Yeah, that's some of the stuff that Faber does that just makes it a lot easier because it'll just go through and put those onto boards themselves. But I mean, it is a paid extension,
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
somebody who's doing CNC, whatever. I can't remember what the subscription cost is. Somebody who's doing CNC, it's kind of a no brainer to
Right.
do that. Somebody like you and me who are like, yeah, once every 3 years, somebody asks me to help me with something like this. Yeah, then you have to be okay with rotate, 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 rotate.
Right, right. Well, I'll just play a movie and then just
There you go.
just go through it.
Little
I'm
Lord
gonna
of the Rings in the background, and yeah,
yeah, then you have plenty
and
of
then
time.
Q key, yeah.
I'm gonna put you on a tough spot,
All
perhaps.
right.
Um, I wanted to ask because you always use Mac, but I'm sort of Windows guy. I came from a Mac background when was first introduced, I think, to SketchUp. I was using Windows, but then I moved over to Mac for quite some time, and then went to Windows World again or PC World again. But is there a reason why that you stick to Mac or to? Because I see a lot of SketchUp driving community to staying on the Mac, so I want to kind of. I know it's sort of putting you in a tough spot, but I wanted to
Oh
just
no,
kind of ask your opinion.
that's a tough one, right? The topics to never bring up are religion, politics, and PC versus Mac. I think
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
Joseph's violating the rule right now.
Right.
Um,
Absolutely.
when you interview somebody. No, I think that there is a lot of Mac users in SketchUp, and that's not true across all of Trimble. Trimble, for the most part, uses PCs, but our group, the SketchUp team, uses a lot of Mac. For me personally, there was like a breaking point many years back where I just got frustrated with performance issues with the laptop. So I had a Dell laptop, which a Latitude, and it was a fairly good high spec machine. But I just noticed this thing like every 6 months or so, I felt like there's an incremental decrease in performance to the point that like, and I was using this, like you can probably hear this too. I was using this laptop to run CAD. I mean, it was not like I was just surfing the net or something like that, but it was like really, and I remember it got to the point where I timed it. It was over 15 minutes for my Mac to boot up each morning. So I would come in, sit down at my desk, plug in, open it up, turn it on, and then go get a coffee, say hi to some people, use the restroom, whatever, and then come back and start working. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. So that was when I started using Mac. And I'm not, this is no shades being thrown at all. This is just my personal experience, is that Macs seem to work until they just don't. Like,
Right.
There's
right.
not as much of a, degradation.
Incremental degradation.
Right. Yeah, there you go. That's the reason I went there. There was a time there where we were creating extensions at my last job. We were creating extensions for SketchUp, and we were creating extensions for Revit at the same time. And I had a laptop for both as a product manager, and I was running them side by side. And it was kind of a selling point, like, man, this takes so long. Everything's slower over here. And the laptop I had was actually a more powerful PC than the Mac I had, which was kind of a, mid-range. But for me, it was just like the simplicity of opening it, running it, shutting the lid. Like that was easier for me than what I had to do with a
Consistency.
PC.
Yeah, and
So,
amount of time I invest in hardwares. Finding Mac is so easy in terms of consistency, but because I was so well invested in the rendering world, and this is
that,
what Indie 3D
yeah.
also brought up, that Mac color picker doesn't work like Windows is somewhat killing him. And I felt that way when I was practicing a lot of renderings. Just the material aspect of it was quite difficult, and yeah, that was one of the reason why I
It's
jumped.
it's so funny because when I go back I do have a Windows laptop that I use for some content. Every time I go in there, I stumble so hard on the Windows color picker now. Like
No, you're
I
so
forget, like,
adjusted.
yeah, because like for me, I'm like, well, I want to change a color, I want to save a color, I want to modify a color. Yeah, just do this. And then I go into the Windows and I'm like, oh man, I know I can do this. So
I
I'm
feel
like
exactly
looking.
the same way whenever I come across Mac.
So I mean, a lot of it comes back to, and this is what anytime we get into these wars on the forum with Mac versus PC, it's always it's like, you know what, guys, we can all have different preferences, and
Yeah.
we're gonna learn, and we're gonna make a case for what's best for us, and that's just kind of the way it is. So
Well,
yeah,
the way I present myself is like, if you're struggling with the color picker on Mac, then just come this way. If you're okay with that, then just go that way. We can
there
all
you go.
live together.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we have options, right? So we don't have to all use the same thing. We
Yeah,
have
yeah.
choices.
Yep. And I mean, the fact that everyone can enjoy the aspect or the values that SketchUp brings, whether you're PC or Mac, I think it's huge. Just from more architectural background, because softwares like Revit or some softwares
Hmm.
that aren't really operating on Mac, for me, it's really that much more difficult to stay within Mac.
Oh, for
Um,
sure.
but if you're well invested in the world of Mac, and also if you're familiar with, and it doesn't reach out anything beyond that area, I don't see why not. It is so consistent, and the
Yeah.
values that you have there is totally, obviously I've actually heard the explanation before, on that controversial topic, from SketchUp side too. It's just that I wanted to just kind of pick your brain on what your experience, because I see you using Mac all the time, and I wanted to learn a bit more about your thoughts on that. So
Yeah.
I appreciate your honest answer, even though it was sort of not to be spoken about topic. Yeah, I think we have passed the 1 hour
Yeah.
mark. Was there anything that you wanted to talk about, or perhaps ask me or the community about?
No, I mean, it's just really, I appreciate anybody who's listening who's part of our SketchUp community. I just appreciate the everybody who's part of our community for who they are, what they do, and I just can't think of a better community to be a part of. And you're part of that, obviously. Joseph is you've been putting out content, and I should point out this is the second time that Joseph's interviewed me. He did Catch Me Walking Through the Halls in Basecamp
I
2018.
totally got you off guard there. But you did so
But
well. I trusted you. I was more
oh,
nervous on my camera than you were.
well, that's what I told you. It's like anytime, no problem.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and see, he took me up on it.
Yes, absolutely. And also, I remember, okay, so this is walking down memory lane a bit.
All
In
right.
After New York National AIA conference, we had a little dinner, and I remember you were just starting off as a content production manager role and recording some of the videos. And I remember you telling me, because I was just starting off like YouTube recording stuff too. And then I remember you telling me something like when you're recording, when you make a mistake, you just stop and then let go of everything and just try to undo or go back and then say that again. It's just such a touchy, nervous moments there. And I couldn't agree more because that's how I am still till this day. But I think you completely broke away from there where you're just exposing yourself in streams and live modeling and embracing all the mistakes. So you've come a
Yeah.
very long way and different path to where I am now.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's one way to cope with making mistakes is just owning it. Because we did, yeah,
Absolutely.
because we used to like when we used to make skill builders, if we made a mistake, we would go in and edit the video and take it out. So that was if I made a mistake, like literally, I'd throw my hands up so I didn't touch the mouse and just be quiet. So I had a quiet gap there where I could go and find and edit to. Now, actually, 90+% of what I do is actually all done live. So we have OBS set up so it plays the intro, it does the fades, and everything is just all the way through. So now if I screw up real bad, I just cut and start over. So um, it's better and also harder sometimes. So,
Absolutely. I
but yeah,
mean,
that's
second
good
time
memory.
round it'll be easier. That we
That's
can
right. That's right.
you can promise that. But the feeling of like despair, just like, oh, what did I just do? I've been there, done that. Like sometimes a few times I have not recorded my voice for whatever reason, so I'm just
Oh,
doing all of this, or I'm talking to the
yeah.
camera yet I haven't recorded my screen, so I have to redo the thing. It's fun. It's the
Yeah.
fun, all
It's
the
all
fun
part of
that
the
we can have.
adventure.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, let's see if we have some chats. We still have the Mac versus PC battle going on.
All right.
Aaron built a game box. What does that mean? I mean,
Oh, so the
arcade
arcade
machine.
machine down
I
below that.
see, I see.
No, I'll let Eric. Eric did a good job. I don't want to compete with what he did.
Yeah, what he did, he told me about how he was shipping that out to base camp. That was a journey apparently. He had to design the box to ship that.
Yeah, he actually designed and built with CNC all the boxes that he ships his stuff with.
Yeah.
He's a crazy
Incredible
man.
stuff. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe I should have ask him if he can come on the show too. It'll be
I bet he would
interesting.
love to.
You
Yeah,
know
he's a
what?
good guy.
I'll follow up on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is pretty much it for
Cool.
today. I don't have anything more on the agenda either. Not that I really had anything, but it was a lot of fun just having you on and just talking a bit more about who you are, because we always appreciated the sort
Sure.
of public figure that you put on, and also what you bring to the community uh, as a SketchUp, but also, although I did say SketchUp guy on the title of the video, but I really wanted to learn more about who Aaron is. So
Awesome. Well, hopefully we did that a little bit. So,
I
and I
think.
just want to say thank you very much, Joseph. Thanks for having me on. This was fun. It was good to catch up and talk too.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. I would love to have you again, perhaps sometime. The
sure.
late nights, perhaps a bit easier for you, where you don't have as younger kids walking
Yeah,
and
it's a little
not
easier with
sleeping.
teenagers.
Right, right.
They'll be up later than I am anyhow. So yeah, not a problem.
Well, thanks everyone for joining tonight's session. We had a great talk, and we'll catch you next week. Oh, by the way, we're having a person named Mary Claire next week. She is starting up a career as an architectural designer or a project coordinator at the company that I work for. And she's a recent sort of hire. And wanted to kind of pick her brain on, what it is like to kind of start up your career in this industry and environment. I'm trying to remind myself of what that was kind of like. And I thought it would be interesting to just kind of hear what she has to say, or what she thought, or what she has experienced. Perhaps she may say Joseph is a terrible coworker, kind of thing. So we'll see how that goes. That's next week, same time on Tuesday for Central Time. It's 9 p.m., but it would perhaps be different time for you. And if you are able, I'll see you next week. Otherwise, you can also watch it on the recording. So
There you go.
goodbye, everybody. Thank you.
All right.
That's it.